I think as an entrepreneur, like, you can't be asleep at the wheel. You always have to be on top of the latest trends.
This is The Entrepreneur Way with Neil Ball. Unlocking the secrets of successful entrepreneurs 7 days a week. Subscribe to our podcast and follow us on Twitter at Neil D. Ball. Napoleon Hill said the power of the mastermind is the driving force. To discover how you can unlock the potential in your business using the power of a mastermind, go to mastermindunlimited.com. And now, here is your host, Neil Ball.
Hello, it's Neil Ball here. Thank you so much for joining me today on The Entrepreneur Way. The Entrepreneur Way is about the entrepreneur's journey, the vision, the mindset, the commitment, the sacrifice, failures and successes. I am so excited to bring you our special guest today, Kathleen Hale. But before I introduce you to her, I have a quote for you. James Hillman says, "I don't have answers, I have questions." The Entrepreneur Way asks the questions so we all get the insight, inspiration and ideas to apply in our businesses. Kathleen, welcome to the show. Are you ready to share your version of the Entrepreneur Way with us?
Yes, I am.
Thank you for coming on the show, Kathleen.
Thank you for having me.
Kathleen Hale is a serial entrepreneur, a public speaking coach, a former trial attorney and law firm founder, and a chair-free living advocate. Kathleen is the co-founder and CEO of Rebel Desk, a company that designs and sells standing and treadmill desks. Kathleen and her co-founder brought Rebel Desk from concept to launch in just 7 months. Rebel treadmill desks have been featured on The View, Good Morning America, The Tennis Channel and PBS. As a leader in the active working world, Kathleen's articles and interviews have appeared in Livestrong.com, Fast Track, Tech.co and Forbes.com, among others. She is also the founder of the Chair Free Project, an online educational resource to help people use chairs less. Seeing a need to help fellow company founders improve their public speaking skills, Kathleen recently began working as a public speaker and pitch coach. She's using her expertise in public speaking and her extensive writing experience to help others realise their full potential. Kathleen, can you provide us with some more insight into your business and personal life to allow the listeners to get to know more about what you do and who you are?
Absolutely. Well, I started the company Rebel Desk with my husband, who is my co-founder, in 2013, and we started selling our products in the fall of that year. And Rebel Desk is a company that designs and sells treadmill desks and standing desks to help people be more active while they work. Before I started Rebel Desk, I had a lot of experience sitting, like so many of us do. I was an attorney, and I spent a lot of time in my office chair. And those long hours started to take a toll on my own health and happiness and productivity. And when I started my own law practice with a few other attorneys, that was when I had the opportunity to think about ways that I could change my day and improve the way I spent my day. My husband and I played around with different ideas for alternatives to sitting at your desk and ultimately hacked a treadmill desk where I could walk and work. And it was noisy and loud and took up a lot of space and awkward. But despite all of those drawbacks, I loved being able to move while I worked. And that's what sort of caused me to dive into the market and the movement for alternatives to chairs, and ultimately to take the leap and start Rebel Desk. So I run Rebel Desk now. I also have an educational resource that I started called Chair Free Project to help people learn about using chairs less in all parts of their life, not just at the office. And that's really what I'm passionate about, is helping people to live more actively.
Yeah, so Rebel Desk is essentially a desk that you can work at whilst running on a running machine, a treadmill or a running machine, whatever you call them. Is that right?
That is correct, except that the treadmill is designed specifically for walking.
Okay.
So it goes no faster than 2 miles per hour.
Yeah.
Which if you ever run on a treadmill, you'll know that's a fairly slow pace. And the purpose for keeping it a walking treadmill is because this is designed just for the office. So it doesn't have the rails on the side of it like a big running treadmill does.
Yeah.
It keeps the product very lightweight. It only weighs 88 pounds. And mobile, so you can move it around the office and move it out of the way if you need to. And it lets it slip underneath a standing height desk and just blend right into your office, as opposed to a running treadmill, which would be a lot bigger and heavier. And that way, too, you don't have to change into your gym clothes or feel like you're working up a sweat in front of your colleagues. You can just walk at a leisurely pace in your work clothes, but still put in easily, 4 or 5 miles a day.
Wow. It's a great concept. I love it. What do you enjoy most about what you do, Kathleen?
I enjoy most the flexibility that comes from being my own boss, in all honesty. Yes, it's very stressful to run your own business. Yes, the life of an entrepreneur is full of uncertainty. Yes, it's a lot of hard work, but I would rather be the captain of my own ship and fighting to take it upstream than taking orders about how to sail someone else's ship. So having that flexibility in my life is part of what has me addicted to the entrepreneur lifestyle.
And what is it that drives you?
I'm really driven by the opportunity to build products and create experiences that will truly improve people's lives. I've had a lot of ideas for products and businesses over the years, but most of the time they come down to either not being the right timing for them or that I just can't imagine myself feeling that good about pursuing that business. And that's how Rebel Desk is different and what drove us to start the company. We regularly hear from our customers about how using our products has helped them to lose weight, reduce back pain, go off medication for chronic diseases, just make them be happier. Those are the stories that really keep me going when the days get challenging.
Mm-hmm. And how do you relax when you're not working in your business?
I have 2 kids, and I love spending time playing with them. They're 7 and 8 years old, and they're at a great age where we like to play a lot of games and read books. I also coach soccer for both of them, and I love being out on the field and working with their friends and teammates to build their soccer skills. As a family, we do a lot of traveling, and we're always planning our next getaway, even if it's just one night out of town to go camping nearby. I think especially when you run your own business and when you run your own business with a family member, you need to just break away, even if it's for 24 hours, to reset.
Mm-hmm. And do you have any entrepreneurial role models?
I do. My dad is a role model for me, actually. I grew up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and my dad was born and raised there in a very modest family, and he was fortunate enough to be able to go to college and get an engineering degree, and then he got a job at a huge multinational corporation, which in the 70s was the gold standard. Now you're going to be set for life. You're going to work for the man, and he's going to take care of you. But my dad hated his job, and he wanted to quit, and he knew he could start his own business. But when he had a mortgage and at that time 3 kids, ultimately 4 kids, that seemed like a crazy thing to do, but he did it anyway. And I saw the ups and downs of the life that he built as an entrepreneur, starting in our basement with my mom as his secretary. But ultimately he was able to follow his dream and build the life that he wanted and send all 4 of his kids to college, and now be able to enjoy a comfortable retirement because he was willing to take a risk and do what ultimately made him the most happy. And entrepreneurship now I think it is a little bit more accepted than maybe it was back then, particularly in a blue collar city like Pittsburgh. So my dad is an important role model for me as I make choices about how to spend my life.
Mm-hmm. Kathleen, can we just talk about the time before you were an entrepreneur? Because I think you've probably got some interesting tips from your developing this product and things. So what difficulties did you have to overcome when you started your business?
Well, as I mentioned, I was an attorney before I started Rebel Desk, and I had wanted to be an attorney since I was 13 years old, probably. And I loved being an attorney. I wasn't an unsatisfied attorney, like unfortunately there are very many, but I was fortunate to have great clients and work on cases that I really believed in. I worked on a really interesting intellectual property case where we recovered the largest judgment in the state of Virginia for a man who had his entrepreneurial vision essentially stolen from the Chinese and a Chinese company and a company based in Dubai. And so, things like that were really fulfilling as an attorney to help people. So for me, one of the things that was really difficult with starting Rebel Desk was to think about leaving behind my identity as a lawyer, and that what I had worked to achieve to that point, was I just throwing it away? Could I ever go back to being a lawyer? And now I almost never identify myself as a lawyer. And sometimes people hear I was a lawyer. I mean, technically I still am a licensed attorney, and they go, "Wow, that's crazy." So to separate your profession from your personal identity was a little bit of a difficult process for me. Ultimately, one that I'm glad that I went through.
Mm-hmm. And what difficulties did you have in terms of setting up your business and obviously developing the product? We had a lot of difficulties initially in just deciding whether we could come in and manufacture a product at the right price point and compete with those who were already out there in the treadmill desk space. Even though there weren't very many companies, they were very large. So could we as a small business come in and say, okay, big guys, we're going to take you on. We're going to cut into your customer base. So there was a lot of research, planning, and data and crunching of numbers that went in to deciding to take that leap. But once we felt confident in our analysis of the market and the product that we could bring to market, then we jumped and we went in full speed. And we were fortunate to not have a terribly difficult time finding good manufacturing partners, which when you produce a physical product is a huge factor in your success. We started looking for manufacturing partners in China, and ultimately we ended up in Taiwan. And we were really lucky through our networks to get some great introductions that helped us find people other businesses that were able to, interested in collaborating with a new company that we were. And did you have any doubts that delayed you starting your business?
I think one of our biggest doubts was whether we could compete with the larger companies that were already out there. Did they have too much of a head start on the treadmill desk space in particular? But we felt that there was an audience that those companies were not targeting, that wanted a product that was smaller, lighter weight, looked a little more aesthetically pleasing than the current products that were out there, and that we could target those. So we believe in taking small steps, right? So we took a small step and test and see, and then another small step and test and see, and then each time the step can get a little bit bigger. So that was kind of our plan as we got started.
And what mistakes did you make that slowed your journey?
We did not take an active enough role in designing and testing the packaging for our treadmills. This is something that I talk about with anyone who comes to me who wants to build a physical product, and I say, you have to think about the packaging and the delivery of your product. We took for granted that just happens. There's the manufacturer has packaging, and FedEx and UPS deliver things, and it'll all work out fine.
They break things as well, though, don't they?
Yeah, those videos where they throw the televisions, the FedEx driver throws the television over the fence, those are real. So we very quickly learned we had to take a more active role in that, find a better way to deliver and package our products, which we have done.
Yeah, it's very difficult dealing with couriers and delivering products so it gets there in one piece. I've had quite a bit of experience with that. So how do you deliver them now?
We deliver our treadmills by a freight carrier. Yeah. So you have to be home to sign for the package. And the freight carriers are, handling heavier products. So they're used to often have 2 people in the truck to handle the product. If someone buys multiple treadmills and desks, that's going to be on a pallet. So things that will make it less likely that there'll be damage to them. If people just buy a desk by itself without a treadmill, which we do offer, we do send those products via FedEx, and that has been working out well for us. It's less expensive to do that, to ship it via FedEx, and also a lot of customers like it because they don't have to be home to sign for the product. So there is an element of consumer convenience there. And, in the world of Amazon where everyone's used to being able to click and then the next day, click buy, and the next day it shows up at your doorstep, a freight carrier takes a little bit longer. So, but for the most part, we found that with a higher priced product and a large product, consumers are understanding of that. So I'm guessing that you've improved the packaging on the product then? Yes.
What are some of the things that you did before you started your business that would be helpful tips to some of the listeners who haven't yet taken the first step on the entrepreneur way?
I suggest that you tell everybody that you can in your network about what you're doing, what your plan is, what the business is you're trying to start, what your goals are. And you will be surprised at the hidden expertise in your network. I found that people generally want to help. They're excited for you. They're interested in what you're doing. And you never know who has a connection to someone else, who has a connection to someone, with some expertise that you can say, hey, can I jump on the phone with you for 10 minutes? We got a connection to a manufacturer in Taiwan that way. And we didn't ultimately use them, but then they led us to another company. So, we had no idea that this person in our network was used to be involved in selling, I think it was patio furniture. We didn't know that was their background, but because we were out there saying, hey, this is what we're doing, we're so excited, we're sharing it, our network was willing to give back and help us.
Kathleen, can we just talk about the entrepreneurial journey a little bit here and move forward a bit to the time when you've actually created the business? Do you think culture is important from the beginning in a business?
Yes, I do think culture is important, no matter how small the business to start with. And for us, we were really interested in creating a culture that was learning oriented. So, driven by data and research to make the best decisions, constantly wanting to improve and get better and stay on top of the newest trends. And so that everyone feels comfortable as well, saying, I have a new idea, I want to take a new direction, and here's the reasons why I want to do that. So that learning-oriented culture is really important for our business. And of course, a culture that involves health and moving and standing and walking a lot.
So all the people that work in your company, do they all stand up and work at your desks?
Yes, we have. We have converts.
So they go home exhausted.
It's okay to sit. Everyone needs a break every now and then.
You allow them to have chairs, then that's good. Excellent. Knowing what you know now, is there anything that if you'd known it when you started out would have helped you to shortcut the learning curve?
What's interesting is that I would say learning more about everything that you're doing can help to shortcut the learning curve, which maybe sounds like those are not compatible. But one mistake that I feel like I made, and I think this is partly comes from being an attorney, is relying too much on supposed experts. When I didn't know anything about running an e-commerce business or building products overseas, or all of this was new to me. So of course we need to get advice from people on the outside, but then there's also a lot of people when you start a business who want you to pay them for their services, and you feel like they know so much more than you do. But what I found is when you don't understand what the person who you're hiring to do SEO or your Google ads or your user interface on your website, when you don't understand what they're doing, you can't evaluate the quality of their work. So you've got to put the time in to understand what the best practices are. And then one, maybe you can just do it yourself or your team. Or two, then you can figure out who the best person is to hire or to have a contract with to do that for you.
I would agree with you on that. I've found that in the past. It's always good to have that thorough understanding of what somebody's doing for you.
Yes.
So, yeah. And how much does gut feeling influence your decisions in your business?
I try to fight that instinct. Try to be more data-driven, try to be more evidence-driven. There's a book that I really like in this area. It's called Decisive. Mm-hmm. It's by two brothers named Chip and Dan Heath. And they have an action plan for how to make difficult decisions, essentially. And they call it, they use the acronym WRAP, W-R-A-P, to talk about how you should go about making decisions and avoiding, like getting distance from the problem, being prepared to be wrong, trying to figure out small ways to test your assumptions. So we try to, that book has been influential for me, and try to just check myself and say, okay, am I just going, I really think this will be great? Or do I have reasons to think it will be great? And just asking that simple question can cause you to step back.
Yeah. I talked to someone the other day and they were telling me that they actually use a coin, and they flick the coin and it helps them decide, because if it lands on, I don't know, if it lands on heads or whatever you call it, then that might be that you do something, and if it lands on tails, it's that you don't do it. And that helps you decide, because at that point you're either disappointed or pleased with the result. So I thought it was quite an interesting way of actually trying to decide things. So obviously you don't ultimately leave it to the flip of the coin, but it helps you determine whether or not you'd actually be disappointed if that was the result.
True. That's an interesting strategy.
Life is made of constant change, whether we like it or not. And some people say the only constant in life is change. Kathleen, how do you try to keep up with change?
I try to be out in the community, out networking, out talking with people at the local tech events, seeing what's happening. I mean, people are always innovating in ways that you don't see, and so that you can't, especially beyond your own industry that you're in. So that's an important part for me of staying on top of things. And that's, I think as an entrepreneur, like, you can't be asleep at the wheel. You always have to be on top of the latest trends, and whether it's the way Google's search algorithms work, or what's the newest, wearable that's out there that people are interested in using when they're on our desk. Mm-hmm. I also, reading articles, I have some favorite hashtag that I follow on Twitter, and and find, the other thought leaders who I think have valuable contributions to marketing or health trends or other topics that are relevant for our business, and staying on top of what content they're putting out there.
And what is your favourite book on entrepreneurialism, business, personal development, leadership, or motivation? And can you tell us why you have chosen it?
And that's hard to pick one, but one that has been very influential for me is Give and Take by Adam Grant. And this book is about how being a giver in life, as opposed to a taker, is a recipe for success, not only in business, but also in your personal satisfaction and your happiness. And I think that's why that book has really resonated with me, because our business and personal lives, they're not separated, no matter what your job is. And seeing, and again, I think also being in the lawyer world, which is not necessarily a great example of a lot of givers in that world, speaking very broadly, there's a lot of competition and wanting to get ahead and be the best and elbowing people out, and as opposed to going, how could I help you today? What introduction could I make for you? Do you need someone to grab coffee with? Like, could I edit your brief for you? And how being the giver, not too much, enough in life, really can bring your business and your personal satisfaction full circle. Adam Grant has a new book out as well right now that I'm excited to read, called The Originals. And it's all about he dove deeply into looking at innovative people and what makes an original, which he's kind of turning into a new noun. So that'll be an interesting one to keep an eye on.
Yeah, sounds interesting. Everyone, when you have a busy life, listening to audiobooks is a great way to expand your knowledge in the time when you may be doing other things, such as driving or when you are at the gym. We have a special offer for you of a free audiobook of your choosing. To choose your free audiobook, go to www.freeaudiobookoffer.com. As long as you haven't already signed up, then you will qualify. Kathleen, can we speculate about the future a little bit? What one thing would you do with your business if you knew that you could not fail?
I would build a sensor-integrated treadmill desk that would help people to sit less and move more throughout the day. So you would be able to tell or track, are you sitting, are you standing, are you walking, how much? You would be able to get feedback on that. You would be able to get reminders. And it would all be seamless and motivational and something that would just become a regular part of people's office lives.
Mm-hmm. So is that your next product?
Possibly. There's, we have looked into doing something like that. But there's a lot of steps in that process. And then the world of using data to improve your health is changing really quickly.
Yeah.
So seeing where that's going to go, are wearables going to take off? Are people going to want to not have a wearable? They're going to want something even more integrated with their body? Or are we going to get burned out on this data about our health? Like, we have all this data now. A lot of people are saying they don't know what to do with it. So I think there's we're in the early days of this trend, even though it sort of feels like wearables have been around for a while. That word is really fairly new in our vocabulary.
It'll be interesting to see where it goes. It's one of those things that will appeal to some people and not to others, won't it? I think that's ultimately always going to be the case with this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I just talked to somebody the other day who's got a nutritional bottle that monitors what you do and what you eat every day, and it actually gives you the right balance of nutrients in a drink that you drink through the day.
Life Fuels?
I've got the name of him.
Is that the Jonathan Pirelli from Life
Yes,
Fuels?
It is. You're right. Do you know Jonathan? I do, and in fact, their office has Rebel desks in it. Does he really? I didn't know
yes.
that. Well, there's another connection then, isn't there?
Small world. That's why they have a great product, because they're on their treadmill desks.
Oh, I didn't realise that. And what skill, if you were excellent at it, would help you the most to double your business?
If I was excellent at just getting tons of high quality backlinks that followed to my website, which I'm not even sure if that's a very specific skill, but SEO is really important for us with the consumer-facing product especially. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And high-quality backlinks are really ruling the day. And it's interesting how much Google's algorithms have changed in just a short time since we've started our business. But I think it makes sense that they want high-quality backlinks, and that's such an important part of search algorithms, because Google's approaching it with the consumer in mind. But boy, they're hard to come by, and I think also different from when I started Rebel Desk is it's harder to get journalists and news outlets to provide those backlinks. We've had a number of coverages recently where it's not their policy to do it anymore. They don't want to look like they're selling a product. So it's interesting how there's this little back and forth there.
Yeah, I think it's changed an awful lot. I mean, I got involved in backlinking with a website I had about probably back in 2008 or something like that. And back then it was very easy because you could post to article sites and things like that. But whereas now it's a lot more difficult, and you've obviously got to use social media and all sorts of stuff. And yeah, they've made it more difficult, haven't they? Because I think there's quite a lot of people who are gaming the system, I think, including me.
Yeah, and I think it makes sense that Google cracked down on that. Yeah. But then it makes it, although the internet is a great equalizer in a lot of ways when it comes to allowing a company like us to compete with a large multinational office furniture company, say, those backlinks can be both expensive and need the right connections, and it's a lot easier for the bigger companies to get them. So it's a spot where the playing field, I think, has shifted a little bit.
I think the one thing I learned from the experience, because I did it very successfully at one point, is that ultimately, if you try to game the system, eventually you will get caught out with it. I think that's the one thing you've got to be very careful of. And so doing it sort of progressively and doing it sort of genuinely is probably the best way of doing it. Not that I'm suggesting you don't, but I'm just thinking from my experience in that.
Yeah. Yeah, it takes longer, but that's what you have to do.
Yeah, well, it's more. I think it lasts longer, because otherwise, if you just find a loophole or something and you find a way of sort of gaming the system, then eventually that loophole disappears, and you find all of a sudden your website loses all of its traffic, and you're sat there scratching your head wondering, where do I get my business from now? So it's just not worth it that way, I don't think.
Right.
In 5 years from now, if a well-known business publication was publishing an article on your business after talking to your customers and suppliers, what would you like it to say?
I would like our customers to say that they can never imagine how they lived before Rebel Desk, before they had it, and they had a choice to stand or walk while they worked, because they're so much happier, feel so much healthier, so much more productive. And we do get people who say that, and I hope that as people have the product even longer, that it becomes even a bigger part of, a more essential part of their work life. And hopefully they'll also say that Rebel Desk was a fun company who gave them great customer service, and they'd recommend it to all their friends too.
Thank you. We're now at the part of the show where you share 3 golden nuggets with us. So, Kathleen, what is your favourite quote, and how have you applied it?
My favorite quote is a Mark Twain quote, where he says, 20 years from now, you will be more disappointed by the things that you didn't do than by the ones you did do. And I have thought about that quote a lot in terms of, should you just stick to the path that seems safer, that seems like the one everyone had planned for you, or should you take a risk? Should you follow your passion? And I think you should. I've been. I don't really like the advice of follow your passion, because that doesn't actually always make sense in the real world. People have to feed themselves and, clothe them and their children and pay rent and things like that. But if you can do that in a way that also allows you to make a living, follow your passion and make a living, then why not? And I think for myself, if I had said no to not only Rebel Desk, but other opportunities that I've had, I would look back and go, I wish I had done that.
Do you have any favorite online resources that you can share with us?
Our favorite one right now, which this may be an answer you get from other people because I know it's just changed the game in a lot of ways, is Canva for doing graphic design, social media posts. Graphic design was a big challenge for us. We didn't have someone on our team who was dedicated to it full time, and there just didn't make sense to. But you want to create great imagery. It's so important, especially on social. So Canva is amazing for that. And I also really like Unsplash. That's a fairly recent site that we have been using where you can get all kinds of great stock imagery that's all license free, everything free, use however you like. And the imagery is beautiful on it.
And what is your best advice to other entrepreneurs?
I would advise people to set benchmarks for your company to reach along the way. Put them on your calendar if you have to. Force yourself to remember where you wanted to be and figure out why you're there, you exceeded it, or you haven't met those marks. Because you can get so lost in the day-to-day. You can look back and forget where you had thought you were going, what the goal was of the campaign you're running, or what your sales projections were, because, this happened or that happened, or boy, it's a really great time. So you have to set those benchmarks and let it be a check on yourself, so you're not just constantly fueled by the day-to-day happenings of your business.
Everyone, if you didn't manage to get a note of Kathleen's favourite resource or her favourite book, you can find the links on Kathleen's show notes page. Just go to theentrepreneurway.com and search for Kathleen or Kathleen Hale in the search box. Kathleen, is there anything else that you'd like to add about your business?
I would just like to add that I hope that anyone who is out there is thinking about making a change from pushing their chair aside and sitting all day. You don't have to invest in a new desk if that's not an option for you. I am truly an advocate for just people, getting up and walking around more. If you need to pile up printer boxes because you don't have the budget yet for a standing desk, do that instead of just being in your chair all day. Because I promise you, you're going to feel better. You're going to be more productive and feel happier. And in 20 years, your body is definitely going to thank you.
Mm-hmm. Kathleen, it's been an honour having you on the show. It's been great hearing about your product and you sharing your knowledge and your perspective about business. So thank you very much for coming on here.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to The Entrepreneur Way. Subscribe to our podcast and follow us on Twitter @Neil D. Ball.